Here we go. Before you hear this album, I need to explain something. This isn't just music. This project came from a place I didn't really understand at the time. A place where my thoughts didn't feel like my own. Where every decision, every emotion felt influenced by something else. For a long time, I thought that voice in my head was me. I thought the doubt was me. I thought the fear was me. I thought the negativity was part of who I was. And because of that, I listened to it. Every time it told me I wasn't enough, I believed it. Every time it told me to stop, I hesitated. Every time it pulled me into a darker place, I followed. But over time, something started to shift. I started to question it. I started to notice patterns. I started to hear the difference in what I actually felt and what that voice was trying to convince me was real. And that's really where this album was born. Every song that you're about to hear is a different stage of this journey. From the moment the voice first appeared, to the chaos it created, the breaking point, and eventually to understanding it. This isn't just my story, because if you've ever had a voice in your head telling you that you're not enough, if you've ever felt like you were fighting something inside yourself, then you already understand this. So before we get into the songs, just remember this one thing. Not every thought you have is the truth, and not every voice in your head is you. I'm gonna be breaking down this story. Welcome to the Misadventures of Luke Dennis. Monster is where everything begins. This song is basically the moment I become aware something wasn't right in my head. Before this, I didn't really separate myself from my thoughts. I thought everything I felt and everything I heard in my head was just me. The monster is that realization that there is something else there. The monster in this song isn't a literal thing. It's that voice that feeds off fear, anger, and insecurity. And sometimes it even motivates you in a destructive way. At the start of this song, there's this energy of power. The monster almost feels like a strength. And that is intentional. Because when you are going through something mentally, that voice doesn't always feel negative at first. Sometimes it feels like confidence or drive or maybe even protection. But as the song goes on, you start to realize that it's something even deeper than that. The hook repeating the words "my monster" over and over again is very important because it shows ownership. And at that point in my life, I didn't realize that I didn't have to own it. I thought it was part of me. And then the second half of the song gets more chaotic, more personal. That's where I start really diving into what's going on in my mind. There's lines in there about losing identity, losing control, about feeling like there's multiple versions of yourself. And that wasn't me trying to feel creative. That was me trying to show what it actually felt like. The ending of the song loops right back to the beginning, and that is intentional too, because it represents being constantly stuck in that cycle. At that point in this story, there's no resolution yet. It's just awareness. And that's why Monster is the perfect first chapter. Because before you can fix anything, you first have to realize that there is something wrong. Virus is where things escalate. If Monster was awareness of the voice, then Virus is when this voice starts spreading into everything. The concept behind this song is that once those thoughts get inside your head, they don't stay in one place. They start affecting how you see yourself, how you approach life, and how you see other people. And that's why the track is called Virus, because it behaves like one. It spreads, it adapts, and quite frankly, it's hard to get rid of. In the first verse, I'm talking about not needing validation, not needing a cosign. But underneath that, there's this deeper layer of proving something. That need to prove yourself can come from the same place as those negative thoughts. And that's what I was exploring. There's also a lot of wordplay in this song, especially around identity and perception. But the only theme is control, or the lack of it. Because even though it sounds confident, there is something underneath that isn't stable. And then the hook comes in. The virus can't delete me. That line is important because that's exactly how it feels. You can try to ignore it. You can try to push it away, but it keeps coming back. And in the second verse, I go deeper into that, talking about the voice in my head, the fear, the way it feeds on pain. There's a line about being a plague in your rap collection. That isn't just about music. That's about being consumed by something. At this point in the story, the voice isn't just present anymore. It's everywhere. And that's what makes Virus such an important chapter, because it shows how quickly things can spiral, especially when you don't know what you're dealing with. Psycho is where identity starts breaking down. This song is about what happens when the outside world starts reacting to you while your inside world is falling apart. The first verse talks about image versus reality. People clapping for what they think you are, but not who you actually are. And that's something I've experienced a lot, especially when you put yourself out there creatively. People start to see a version of you, but they don't see what's going on behind that. The line, they clap for the image, not the person that I am, that pretty much sums up the whole song, because it creates this disconnect. You start questioning yourself, like, who am I actually? Am I the person that they see, or the person that I feel like on the inside? Then the bridge comes in. I can't breathe when they cheer for me. That's a real feeling. When attention and recognition start to feel more overwhelming instead of rewarding. And then the hook, I feel psycho. That's not meant to be taken literally. It's about feeling disconnected, like your thoughts don't align with reality anymore. In the second verse, I'll go deeper into that, talking about how even positive things like compliments start to feel distorted. And that's what happens when your mind just isn't in the right place. Even good things start to feel negative. And then the third verse builds on that even more, talking about fame, pressure, trust, identity. At this point in the story, things feel unstable. That voice is still there, but now it's mixing with external pressure. And that's really what makes Psycho such a key part of this album, because it shows the moment everything starts to blur. Reality, identity, perception, it all starts to break down. Angels and Demons is where the internal conflict becomes undeniable. Up until this point, there's been tension, but this is the first time it feels like a full-blown war. This one is basically me trying to understand the two sides in my head. One side is telling me to keep going, keep fighting and push through everything. And the other side is pulling me down, feeding on fear, doubt and guilt. What makes this song different is that both sides feel really convincing, and that's the scary part, because it's not like one is obviously right and one is obviously wrong. Both voices feel very real, and both voices feel like me. In the first verse, I lean more into the darker side, the demons. That voice is aggressive, manipulative, almost mocking. It's that part of your mind that knows exactly where you're vulnerable. Then in the chorus, you hear the chaos of both sides. It's not peaceful, it's overwhelming. And in the second verse, I bring in the angel side. That voice is calmer, more hopeful, more grounded. But even then, that angel side is still competing for space. The key line in this song is, both pull at my soul till I'm paralyzed. Because that's what it feels like. Not knowing which voice to trust, not knowing which voice is actually you. And that's where the story is at this point. You're not just aware of the voice anymore. You're now stuck between two versions of yourself. Face My Fears is the turning point. This is the first moment where I actually stopped running. Up until now, everything has been reactive, trying to understand, trying to survive, trying to make sense of it. But this is where I make a decision to actually confront what's going on. The hook is simple on purpose. I've been through the fire, the storm, the rain, I'm breaking the chains. It's not complicated, because sometimes the most important realizations aren't complex. They're just clear. In the first verse, I talk about looking in the mirror. That's a recurring theme throughout the album, because the mirror represents truth. You can lie to people, you can hide from situations, but when you look at yourself, there's nowhere to hide. And in that moment, I realized something. The fear wasn't external. It wasn't something outside of me. It was something I had to face directly. The second verse builds on that. It becomes me versus me. That's the real battle. And once you realize that, everything changes. Because now you're not fighting something that's unknown. You're confronting yourself. And that's what makes this song so important. It's truly the first step towards taking back control. All of Me is one of the most layered songs on the whole project. The whole song is a triple entendre. It's about a relationship, it's about the voice in my head, and it's also about you guys, the audience, all at the same time. The pre-hook sounds comforting, almost like love. You will always have a home with me, but as the song unfolds, you realize that this isn't healthy. It's attachment, it's dependency, and it's giving everything to something that isn't giving anything back. In the first verse, I talk about feeling like I'm being controlled, feel like a puppet, and that can apply to all three meanings. A toxic relationship, the voice in your head, even the pressure of performing and being seen. The hook repeating the words all of me is really important because it shows how much is truly being given away. And in the second verse, I start to realize the imbalance, the lack of appreciation, the emotional toll. But even then, there's still hesitation to walk away, and that's real. Because letting go of something, even if it is hurting you, is still hard. The final verse brings everything together. The music, the voice, relationships, it all overlaps. And that's the point of the song. It shows how easily these things can become intertwined and how dangerous that can truly be. Days Like This is the lowest point in the album. This is the moment where everything feels heavy, where it feels like there is no way out. And I want to be very clear, this song is based on a past experience. It's not where I am now, but it was very real at the time. The hook sets the tone. They tell me my condition is incurable. That feeling of being stuck, of thinking things won't get better. In the first verse, I talk about coping mechanisms, trying to escape the pain, trying to numb the pain, but realizing that these coping mechanisms don't actually fix anything. They just delay it. The second verse goes deeper into that mindset. Feeling trapped, feeling misunderstood, feeling like you're carrying something nobody else can see. And the third verse is where the perspective shifts ever so slightly. I start to recognize the role music played, how it gave me a way to express what I couldn't say out loud. This song is important because it shows the reality of those moments, but also shows that these moments don't define you forever. They're just part of the story, not the ending. This song is about choice, but not in a simple way. It's about the illusion of choice. The red pill and the blue pill represent two paths. One is truth, one is comfort, but neither path is easy. And that's the exact point. In the first verse, I explore both sides. The temptation to stay comfortable and the pull towards facing reality. The second verse goes deeper into that conflict because both options come with consequences. And sometimes you don't want either path. The key realization comes towards the end. Maybe freedom ain't swallowing truth. That line there is everything because it suggests something very different. That maybe it's not about choosing between extremes. Maybe it's about facing reality without choosing either illusion. This song represents clarity, but not resolution. This song is a conversation, literally, between me and the voice in my head. And what makes this song very interesting is that both sides of the argument have a point. The voice isn't just negative, it's it's also brutally honest in a way, but it's twisted. It takes truth and distorts it. In the first verse, I question why the voice has gone quiet. And that's unsettling, because silence can just be as loud as chaos. Then the voice responds, and you start to see how it operates, how it justifies itself, how it tries to convince you that it's necessary. In the second verse, the conversation becomes more balanced. I start pushing back, challenging it, and then there's a realization. Maybe we both just shades of the same. That's the key moment of the song. It's not about destroying the voice, it's about understanding it and taking control of it. This song is pressure. Everything building up at once. The feeling of being on the edge but not wanting to fall. The hook says it clearly. I don't want to self-implode. It's not about giving up, it's about trying to hold on, even when it feels impossible. The verses describe that tension, the fear, the confrontation, the mental noise, and the build-up section, that's the breaking point. That's the moment where it feels like everything could collapse, but it doesn't. And that's important, because surviving is sometimes just not falling apart. Therapy is the twist. At first it feels like a normal therapy session, someone trying to help. But as the conversation starts to unfold, you realize something is off. The therapist knows too much, speaks too precisely, and then it becomes very clear. The therapist is that voice. That's the realization. The same voice that's causing the problem is pretending to be the solution, and that's truly powerful because it shows how deceptive your own mind can be. But the ending is different. This time, I recognize it, and once you recognize it, it loses its power. Devil is about temptation, not literally, but the idea of selling yourself for success, fame, money, recognition. The offer is always there, and that offer always sounds good. That's why the devil in this song is calm, convincing, confident. But the key theme is choice, choosing integrity over shortcuts, choosing peace over pressure, and realizing that not everything that looks like success is worth it. Kamikaze is chaos. The metaphor is simple. I'm the plane, the voice is the pilot, and we're heading towards destruction. The whole song is about losing control, knowing what's happening, but feeling unable to stop it. And that's a real feeling. But the important thing to know is that it's not the end, it's the storm before the clarity. This song is the resolution, the ending of the story. And it's truly the most important song on this album because this song flips everything in this album. At first, it sounds like a goodbye, like it's truly the end. But then it shifts. You realize that after all this time, the note was never written by me. It was written by the voice. And that changes everything because now I can separate myself from it. Now I can say, that's not me. And that's the message of the entire album. Looking back at this project now, I see it differently. At the time, it felt like chaos. It felt like confusion, like I was losing control of something that I didn't even understand. But now I can see it for what it really was. It was a process of separating myself from something that was never me. Every song on this album represents a moment in that journey. The fear, the doubt, the pressure, the breaking point, but also the realization. Because the most important thing I learned from all this was that the voice in my head was never my identity. It was something I experienced, not something I was. And once I understood that, everything changed. It didn't mean everything suddenly became easy. It didn't mean the voice disappeared overnight, but it meant I could see it for what it really was. And that gave me control. That gave me space. That gave me the ability to choose which thoughts I listen to and which ones I let go. This project is personal, but it's also not just about me. It's for anyone who's ever felt like they've been fighting something inside themselves, anyone who's ever questioned their worth or felt like they were losing that battle. And if that is you, I just want you to know something. You are not your worst thoughts. You are not your fear, and you are not the voice that tries to break you. That voice might be loud, it might be convincing, but it is not who you are, and it never was. This album was my way of proving that to myself. And if this album helps you realize that too, then it's done exactly what it was meant to do. The Misadventures of Luke Dennis, 14 songs, 14 chapters, one album, one story. 17th of April. Everything that you've heard up until now from Silver Linings, it's all gonna make sense. And just know that this is the end of the story. Thank you. Was that good? Yeah, we all done?